I've been meaning to make a video about Fulham Broadway for quite a while now. It's a station I rather like. It's on the District line of the London Underground and is probably most famous for serving Stamford Bridge, which I understand is some sort of sports ground. The station is entered via a shopping centre and it has this weird half-old, half-modern thing. At platform level, one half is very modern, kind of brutalist almost. And at the other end it looks like this. Let's take a dive into the history of Fulham Broadway. When the station first opened in 1880, it was named Walham Green. It didn't get its current name until 1952. In 1880 there was another station named Putney Bridge and Fulham, now just Putney Bridge, but that changed fairly early on. The station was built by the Metropolitan District Railway, or just the District Railway as it was known for short. There were two reasons why they built this line. The first was that the area of Fulham was developing rapidly. In fact, by the 1870s it was already built up, and the district was all about that southwest London commuter traffic. The other reason was to prevent another railway company from doing the same thing. The London and South Western Railway was also all about that southwest London commuter traffic. They had a number of lines nearby, and, disconcertingly for the district, they also had a station at Chiswick, not very far away at all. It was pretty clear that if the district didn't get to Fulham, the LSWR would. So the district chaps rushed it. They had a branch line to West Brompton, and in 1878 they got an Act of Parliament allowing them to extend that all the way to the river. The line was opened on the 1st of March 1880, which meant that they were just in time to carry the crowds for the boat race. The line was technically not complete at the time, which gives you some idea of how rushed the district were. Nevertheless, it was good enough to pass inspection. The line at Putney Bridge ended abruptly on a viaduct facing the Thames, which made it pretty clear that the district were looking to strike out across the river, into LSWR territory. Which they did, actually extending their service to Wimbledon in 1889, running over LSWR track from East Putney on. It was a complicated relationship those two railways had. But I'm skipping ahead a little. You're here to hear about Fulham Broadway, or Walham Green as it was still known. Walham Green was below street level in a cutting. The layout was different from how it is now. The footbridge led into a station building that kind of straddled the tracks. There was an overall roof, which is partly still there. The original station building was quite different from anything that's there now. I'd say that what it most resembled, architecturally speaking, was Gloucester Road. This station was a great success, with trains running to High Street Kensington and Mansion House. In 1901 there would be a change in management. The District Railway would be bought out by Underground Electric Railways of London Limited, or UERL. UERL was something of an empire of underground lines, having bought out what would become the Bakerloo Line, the Piccadilly Line, and the Hampstead Tube, now part of the Northern Line, early in their planning stages. The district had an odd position within this empire. Unlike the other lines, it already existed. It had been up and running for over 30 years. It was a subsurface line with main-line-sized trains, whereas the other lines would be deep-level tubes with much smaller trains. And it shared track with other railway companies, which was something UERL tried to avoid. This similar but different status was reflected, probably unintentionally, in the architecture of the line under UERL. The Piccadilly, Hampstead and Bakerloo lines had stations designed by Leslie Green, which were very distinctive. They were flat-roofed in a somewhat Art Nouveau style, faced with glazed oxblood tiles. An important part of UERL's takeover of the district line, in fact their entire justification for doing so, was electrification and modernisation. At Walham Green, as well as a number of other stations, that meant new buildings. In 1904, Stamford Bridge Stadium was bought up by Gus and Joseph Mears, who saw it potentially as an important sporting venue. As you might imagine, this was music to the District Railway's ears. The founding of Chelsea Football Club in 1905 was even better. But there was no way the old station would be able to cope with match-day crowds, so architect Harry W. Ford gave them a new station building that opened in 1910. That building is now the Walham Green, a Wetherspoons pub. Now, I have mixed feelings about Wetherspoons pubs, but I can't deny they've done a pretty good job at preserving Ford's building. As you can see, it was designed to be light, airy, and spacious, pleasant to look at, but also very practical for crowd flow. Like the Leslie Green stations, it's faced in glazed tiles, but this time in brown. Ford seems to have liked his arts and crafts, and it's got a few touches in that style, like the stained glass. Note also the DR monograms. Even the District Railway themselves didn't bother with the metropolitan part of their name. Incidentally, there's another connection between Stamford Bridge and the Underground. The terracing was built using spoil dug out for the Piccadilly line. Anyway, Walham Green was one of those stations that seemed to have hit on a winning formula. It remained relatively unchanged for nearly 90 years. In 1933, UERL became part of London Transport, the largest part of it, in fact. The Ford building lasted long enough to attain Grade 2 listed status, ensuring that it was safe from demolition, probably. What's in a name? Well, according to Fulham's local Chamber of Commerce, quite a lot. There's a lot of value in being able to say that you're on the Underground. And although Fulham was very much on the Underground, Walham Green, Parsons Green and Putney Bridge all being in the area, none of the stations were actually called Fulham at the time. I find it kind of ironic that the Underground should find itself in this position, given that Putney Bridge was so called to imply that the district served Putney several years before they actually did. It's all very confusing. Anyway, in 1952, Walham Green became Fulham Broadway, as it remains. Another change was coming. Well, it was coming over 40 years later, but it was coming. Stamford Bridge was an ever more popular destination, beyond even what the District Railway had anticipated back in the 1900s. Beautiful though the Edwardian building was, it just couldn't cope with the enormous crowds of the late 1990s. These could be as many as 15,000 people all trying to get through the station at once. So in 1999, redevelopment was begun. A new station would be built, designed by Hamilton's Associates. This would include a larger ticket hall and would be more accessible for mobility-impaired passengers. It would also include a new shopping centre, known imaginatively as the Fulham Broadway Shopping Centre. This kind of commercialism can cause transport fans to gasp in horror, but I should point out that it's really not much different from what UERL did in the 1900s. They always had an eye on the value of their land for commercial exploitation. The new station would sit astride the old platforms, which admittedly does make the station rather gloomier than it used to be. It includes special staircases that can be opened up on match day, routing crowds right past the shopping centre to speed things up as much as possible. Remarkably, much of the work on rebuilding the station was done at night, during the 4-hour periods when the station was closed. The whole thing was finished in 2003. As for the Ford building, it was converted into a TGI Fridays. I don't know if that name is appropriate or ironic for a former commuter station. In 2018, it became a food hall, and this year it was converted once again into a Wetherspoons. One thing about Wetherspoons is that the carpets always have a hidden meaning. In this case, they're based off the ammonite seat maquette that was used by the Metropolitan Railway. Not the District Railway, though. Heaven knows what UERL would think. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this fossilised tale from the tube. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. My main sources for this video were Mike Horn's 2-volume History of the District Railway, London's District Railway, and Lawrence Munir's book, London's Underground Stations. I also consulted the TfL website on the 21st Century Rebuild. I also, of course, owe a debt to my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon, and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the added commercial appeal to my change of name. And I will see you all again very soon. Cheerio.